If you're wondering about how you can bring up your grade, I'll show you one option. I'm gonna go to school. No, school. See my class. Yeah. This is just alright, if you have any grade in focus lower than a 60%, you're going to find it's called chapter 1 remediation. It is optional. I put it's actually due at like 11:30 p.m. on Monday. And the reason for that is so that I can get in before progress reports. The last day for me to do progress reports is like Wednesday, so I need your grades done Tuesday. So sometimes students get confused about this. They have an 88 and they really want an A, so they come in and they do the extra credit. And this does not affect you. If you don't have a grade lower than 60, this is not for you. This doesn't help you go from a C to a B. Though some students have a C and they have one grade lower than 60 and they do it and it does take them to a B. But this is mostly to prevent people from failing. So in this class, if you always do grade remediation, it's impossible to fail. So that's helpful when coaches and parents and guidance counselors come to me and they say, this student says they just can't get through your class. I say, no, it's actually impossible to fail. I give them every option. Okay. If you can't do this, because whatever, it doesn't work on your computer at home, you don't have a laptop, you're always on a phone, you can always stay after school and I will give you paper options. You come in after school and you can do it here. So I used to only offer remediation after school. And then everyone said, well, I work, I ride the bus, I babysit, I can't do that. So now I have the online option. So there's something for everybody. If you like to work online, do this. If no, come in after school. Does anybody have a question about, and if you got like on the test, if you got like a 56, a 58, that might be curved up. I'll try to get those grades in focus today so you know if it's above or below a 60. We'll see. Yes. So you said schools, you got a big idea. Yes. Big ideas. This is on there right now. Yeah. So when we do it, we'll like bring that grade up to a 60. Up to a 60. Okay. So particularly if you got like a 40, you need to do the whole thing, get up to a 60, and then that will. And if you got 100 on the assignments, and you get 100 on the Bellward quiz, and then you get all of your accountability points, this will all help offset your grades to like that C range. Then you're not going to be able to do it. So, but I could call your parent and talk to them about how to get big ideas working. Okay, I'll give them a call today. Make sure you have access to all this technology. It also works on your phone, So. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so looking back at this slide, it says there is a Bellward quiz on Monday. Unfortunately, I won't get that graded for your progress report. But you have the weekend. If you did not put any dates in your Bellwork, you need to go through the videos posted in Schoology and figure out which problems were for which date. Because your Bellwork quiz won't go well if you don't have dates. Or you can have somebody in class, hey, I have this question. What date was this? I don't have a date here. What date was it? And you guys can match up your notebooks. I'm giving you that heads up now because it's chapter 1. I won't do that in the future. Because I don't want you getting by just copying Bellwork. The purpose is that you all come in here every day, you participate, you listen, that should show in focus. So the Bower quiz is supposed to be a really high quiz grade. Okay? Does that give you all the answers? Okay. Okay. All right. So there are three forms of quadratic functions. We spent all of chapter 1 talking about function families and transformations. So this first form is actually called vertex form, and this is good for graphing. Because it shows transformations. Okay, today we're going to start working with standard form of quadratic. And I'm just going to be really honest with you. Some people like it better because there's a systematic approach, but it's a little bit more difficult to graph. And our challenge today is to graph standard form. Let me show you what vertex form and standard form look like. So this is vertex form. This is what we've been working on. Can anybody identify what the -5 would do to a parabola? Down 5. Somebody else. What's the +4 going to do? Right or left? It's left. That one's left 4. What's the 2 going to do? Skinnier. It's going to stretch it up. Vertical stretch, skinnier. What's the negative going to do? It's going to flip it over. It's a reflection. So right now I can picture this parabola. It's so starting from the middle, it's left 4, it's down 5, it's flipped, and it's skinny. And the reason I can picture that is because in vertex form, all these things mean something. Now I'm going to convert it to standard form. Don't do this. I am not teaching this to you right now. I'm just going to do it on the board. You can kind of follow with it. Don't feel like you have to learn this right now. I'm going to go ahead and FOIL the middle. And I get x squared plus 8x plus 16. There's a -2 on the outside. I'll distribute it in. -2x squared minus 16x minus 32. Bring down the 5. And here we go. -2x squared minus 16x minus 37 is now in standard form. Will you put your phone away? So in Desmos, if I type this in, I can see the parabola. If I type this in, it's the exact same parabola. It's in the same place, it's the same shape, it's the same size, it's going the same direction. This is the same thing as this, written in a different way. So on the blue poster, MTR2, what we're supposed to be teaching you in math class is to demonstrate understanding by representing problems in multiple ways. So we already showed you how to visualize this graph. Today's lesson is showing you how to graph this one. Okay? I don't see left 4. I don't see down 5. All I see is the -2. So this is not helpful. So we have a systematic approach, some steps to graphing this. Okay? Questions about that? This last one called intercept form. More often we call it factored form. Factored form is kind of nice for graphing too, but I'll just remind you of what factored form is. If you start with a standard form parabola, maybe this is standard form. I'm going to rewrite it in factored form. I know that factoring is multiplying to 15 and adding to 8. It would be x plus 5, x plus 3. Okay, same exact graph. Same graph. If you FOIL this, you get that one. So they are equivalent. They're the same thing when you graph them. This one's the most difficult way to graph. This one's not bad. And if you can put it in vertex form, that's the easiest way to graph. All right? 3 representations of parabolas. vertex, standard, and intercept. Any questions? Okay, I have a handout for you to put in your full time. It's going to walk through the steps.
Hey, don't break it.
Alright, these are all supposed to be there, but as the ball goes through the center, right? It's great, I'm ready to know those names. Don't put it in yet, I say, we're gonna write all over it.
That's awesome. And that's all.
I'm about to tell two Alright, let's start off by going ahead and right up top here, this is page 124 of your book. So I'm going to walk you through all of the steps on this paper, and then the book spends a whole page doing it too. So when I'm done, you can go through and look at the book and kind of see how are they similar, how the book might be more helpful. Okay, so write the page number at the top. Start using your book as a secondary resource. Yeah.
So this is something. Yeah.
No, we're filling this whole thing out.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. So this is standard form. So I want to go ahead and acknowledge that the letters A, B, and C are actually going to be numbers. We put numbers in there. This is probably the most important formula on the whole page. It says negative B over 2A. When I do it by hand, I put the negative up top. So when things are typed, the negative goes in the middle. And I know students, they think, well, is that the top negative? Is it the bottom negative? Are they both negative? So what I say you do is I put the negative up top with the B every time. So one negative sign, put it up top. Okay? So whenever people forget how to graph these things, it's because they're not remembering this formula. Usually as soon as someone says negative B over 2A, they think, oh, okay. And that gets them going through all the steps. So that formula is for the axis of symmetry. What's an axis? You've heard axis in one other class, maybe two. When have you heard axis before? Okay, and what does it refer to? Axis. Oh, the X and Y axis. I didn't even think of that. There's the X and Y axis. And I was thinking science class. Have you heard the word axis in science class? The Earth spins on its axis. So the Earth has that pole that goes through it. all of our planetary objects, they're spinning on an axis. So what do you guys think the axis of symmetry is? It's the middle line of the parabola. And I will draw it typically with a dash because it's not the actual graph of the parabola, it's the middle. I'll label one here. Here's a nice little parabola. I'll do it, since it's not a graph, I changed my color. It goes through the middle. And I typically just do AOS, axis of symmetry. Okay. So in order to find the middle of the parabola, use that formula, negative b over 2a. The last important part of this top box is about the y-intercept. So the last number in the equation is your y-intercept. So that's on the y-axis. Who's heard of it? Like we straight called those people evil before, and now I don't know what we're calling them anymore. Maybe you just haven't learned that part of history, though. If anybody wants to Google it, I'll accept it. Are there any active Googlers in the room? No? Okay. AOS. I wish I would have made the S bigger. That means axis of symmetry. All right, I'm back in it. All right, so when I look at the directions here, it's a lot. We have to do the y-intercept. We have to do the equation of the axis of symmetry. We have to find the vertex. What's the vertex? Yeah.
A group of states accused by George W. Bush of sponsoring terrorism and seeking weapons of mass destruction. They were originally Iran, Iraq, and North Korea.
So that was maybe 90s. Because that's George Bush Sr. So I learned that in the 90s. That's really current history. You guys probably will never learn current history like that. So that was somewhere in my brain. I guess I'll stop repeating it. I thought in my mind I remembered it as being a part of World War I. That was like a war actually in my lifetime. Okay. The vertex is the actual center point. It's a 1 point. Okay. And then we also have to do domain and range. And this page just goes through 4 steps of doing all of those things. All right, step 1, identify A, B, C. So this is ax squared bx plus c. Now, there isn't a number in the a spot. So I like to write in like in the invisible 1. There's an invisible 1 there. So a is invisible 1, b is 2, c is 3. It says, if possible, plot the y-intercept. So I'll remind you, this little guy is the y-intercept. So we already have a point on our graph. Okay, step 2. We'll do the formula right, so this means you plug in A and B into the formula. So I'm going to have x equals, it's supposed to be negative b over 2a. So that would be negative 2 over 2 times 1. And get those calculators out, guys, because we're going to be plugging in lots of numbers, and it's just going to be, if you get really good at your calculator and efficient at it, it's just going to lead to more success and progress in the class. If you're finding like you're one of these exceptional students who are just like, man, I've learned this before, I got this, then yeah, do everything by hand. But if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, then you should be really using your calculator as a tool. Okay, so I would hit the fraction button first. I'd put negative 2 on top. I'd boop arrow down and put 2 times 1 on bottom, hit enter, and it's going to do it for me. Negative 1. The fraction button is just like maybe your bestest friend in the whole world. It's right above the number 7. No, you don't. Hit the fraction button and then negative 2 over 2 times 1. So by hand, I would just write negative 2 over 2 and I get negative 1. So x equals negative 1 is where we're going to put a dashed line. This is our axis of symmetry. So this is the center line. You know what? No. Syntax error means you did the subtraction sign instead of the negative sign. So let's just get that error out of the way. If you hit the minus sign instead of that negative sign, it'll reject you. All right, so everybody has a dash line at one point. Moving on. Let's look. Should we rate all of this? It says determine the vertex. The x value of the vertex is negative b over 2a. Determine the y value. Plug that into the function. That's pretty clear. I don't mind that. But I did add this in writing before. I said the vertex is the center point, right? And the center point is always on the line. The center point goes on the dashed line. So we have a dashed line. We got to figure out where the point is on the dashed line. So that's what we're doing in this next step. So it's on the axis of symmetry. We're going to plug the answer we just got. We just got negative 1. We're going to plug that into the equation. So I have my equation. I'm taking that negative 1 and I'm putting it in the x spots in both of them. Now I'm going to do that math. And looking at this math again, if you're good with your negatives, you're good at squaring numbers, you should do it all by hand. Okay? If you're finishing more quickly than everybody else, you should do everything by hand. Everybody else, you guys should be putting this into your calculator as one step. Okay? What I hate to see is you have this awesome calculator and you do this and hit enter. And then you do this and hit enter. And then you do this and then you add them all up and it takes you like 4 different lines. It's supposed to be done in one line. I will show you. Okay? There's parentheses buttons. I'm going to put negative 1, close parentheses. There's a button to do exponent. Put the exponent in. And then you have to cursor over. There's an arrow button. Once you're up in the exponent, you have to use this cursor pad and you move over. Move over. And then you hit your plus sign too. More parentheses. -1. More parentheses. +3. You only hit enter once. Don't put it in a bunch of different problems. Once it's entered in, when you go to plug another number in, you go up, you highlight it, you bring it down. And let's say this time I want to do +1. I'll delete the negative sign. Delete the negative sign. Or maybe I want to turn that to a 4. Did you get it? I did divide. All right, so the answer is 2. Hopefully you got 2. All right, so by hand that looks like this is +1 because negative times a negative is positive. -2 + 3. -1 + 3 is 2. Now, for me at this point, it's quicker for me to do it by hand than put it in my calculator. And that might be the case for some of you, but the majority of you, like myself, when you start, just use a calculator. All right, so now we have a point. You're going to plot your vertex. You have a point at -1, 2. What you just plugged in and got out, that's an ordered pair, and that's your vertex. -1, 2. That's my vertex. X is -1, the y is 2. Now we have 2 points, but really I see 3, and that's because this can now reflect across our symmetry axis. So this is symmetrical, right? So you have to have 5 points. You might as well use this shortcut. That can reflect right over. Okay, so now we just 2 more points. All right, so last step, we're gonna make a table using the center point as the vertex. So the vertex is the center of the graph. It should also be the center of the table. So we're gonna fill that in. Your table has to go to the left and right of center. So I'm gonna do 2 points left, and I'm gonna do 2 points right. So I guess that would leave me at what? To the left would be -2, -3. To the right would be 0, 1. Okay. So your table's always different. It's not the same numbers every time. It depends where the axis is. If your axis is way over at 10, you wouldn't want to be plugging -2 in. That's going to be really far away. So you need numbers like in the same area. All right. So let's do the math. Well, we already know 0. What's the one that goes to 0? Yeah, that's the intercept. We already found that one. We also reflected it, so we already found that one. So the ones we have to do the math for are this one. And we have to do this one. We have to plug in -3 and we have to plug in 1. So here's your second chance to try to get it right, either by hand or using your calculator really efficiently. So to get one of those What'd you guys get? 6. 6 is right. Who wants to know how to do it in a calculator again? You do. No, everyone thought I said the other thing. Everybody thought it. Because he knows too. All right, we'll put those in. And you know what? This is kind of, isn't it always been over 1 up 1, over 2 up 4? Yeah, so that's just like the parent function. We just pretty much redrew it over there. But if there was a stretch or a shrink, it wouldn't be so clear. So for those of you who really struggled with the transformations, these steps will help you get nice, clear graphs of parabolas. So maybe you'll appreciate the steps. All right, our domain, and I've just written everywhere. Our domain is all real numbers, so infinity, negative infinity. And our range starts at 2 and goes up forever. And that's done. That's the whole graph. So again, your book does all of that on page 124. I think you should look at it and read it. And you have the rest of class to try 17 and 18. I've assigned you 2 of these. You just have to put parentheses around the negative. This is a parenthesis.
I wonder if that was. Thank you.
Where it passes on wait. Yeah, the lower. Okay. And then what's the domain? Well, the domain you just have to think about it, and it's like those
It's still moving.
but like this actually has a point here. Alright, you guys use this time to work together on the text screen. Get a number out. Ask somebody next to you. Did you get the same number?
Don't worry, I have it all.